Buckingham Palace, who has announced more details about the kind of uniform and the clothing that's going to be worn by members of the royal family during these ceremonial events.
The royal family recently gathered at Buckingham Palace to read Queen Elizabeth's last will. She decided to divide her wealth and estates among her family. She left messages about power, legacy, and the future of the British crown. Crowns have some disadvantages, but are still important, she noted. In an unusual choice, Prince Andrew, not King Charles, read the will. Why was Andrew chosen for this task, and what did Queen Elizabeth give to whom? Join us as we share all the surprising details of her inheritance. Prince Andrew reads Queen Elizabeth's will. Prince Andrew recently read Queen Elizabeth's will at Buckingham Palace. The atmosphere was tense and quiet, filled with unspoken secrets. People expected this moment for years, but it always seemed far away. Now, everyone gathered in the drawing room, dressed in dark colors, avoiding eye contact. Each person had their reasons for being there. Some were hopeful, while others were uncertain, but everyone understood the significance of this moment. The reading of the Queen's last will could change everything. This will represent Queen Elizabeth's final message after 70 years of reign. The importance of this moment made everything feel heavier. The will involved more than just who would inherit what. It would define family roles and possibly the monarchy's future. In the middle of the room stood Prince Andrew. Many people felt it was odd that he was the one to read the will. Most expected Charles or Anne to take on this responsibility. Some doubted Andrew's ability to handle such an important task. He stood before the family, aware of the weight on his shoulders. Andrew felt uneasy but knew he had to proceed. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling as he picked up the envelope. The wax seal broke with a quiet sound. As Andrew pulled out the first page, the tension grew. "This is my last will," he began, and for a moment it felt as if the Queen herself had spoken. The mood shifted in the room. Some felt relieved while others felt anxious. As Andrew read on, he realized his mother's words would reveal essential things. She expressed gratitude for the family's support and commitment to the monarchy. Then, he moved on to specific instructions, starting with Charles. "To my dear son Charles," Andrew read. It was clear that Charles would take care of Windsor Castle. This was expected, and Charles nodded in acknowledgement. Then Andrew read a statement that surprised everyone. "I have given the Sandringham estate to my daughter Anne." This was unexpected, as Sandringham was a key property for the royal family. The room reacted immediately. People's eyes switched around. Anne showed surprise, and Charles looked uncomfortable. He didn't entirely approve of this decision. Andrew continued, ready to read more from the will, which was about to unveil something that left everyone speechless. Let's find out what happens next. Breaking from royal traditions. Queen Elizabeth decided to change royal traditions. She gave properties that used to belong to one person to the whole family. She also gave certain properties to specific individuals. This change started with the Balmoral estate. "It will hold a shared purpose," Andrew read. One person would no longer control the estate. Several family members would share it. Balmoral was special, filled with the family's cherished memories. Sharing it was both practical and symbolic, but not everyone agreed. Charles, in particular, seemed unhappy. As Andrew continued, he highlighted personal touches in the will. "To Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge," he read, "I give the Vladimir Tiara, which stands for grace and continuity." Catherine's eyes showed gratitude, but she didn't smile. The tiara was a historic symbol, and now it belonged to her. A message from the Queen that Catherine represented the monarchy's future. Next, Andrew addressed Prince George and Princess Charlotte. The Queen told George he had a duty as the future king. This duty was more than just advice. It depended on the strength of the people. Andrew's words struck harder than expected, especially given the tense atmosphere in the room. Everyone waited for what would come next. Then came the moment everyone dreaded. Andrew's voice quieted as he read Prince Harry's name. "I leave a ceremonial sword that once belonged to King George II, he stated. The sword was a significant symbol, passed down through generations. The room reacted immediately. William shifted uncomfortably. The Queen's choice to leave the sword to Harry felt heavy. Was it a peace offering or a warning? As Andrew read on, he pointed out that the gifts, estates, and advice all showed an uncertain future. The Queen had done her best to create a plan, but it wasn't straightforward, and now her family had to figure out what to do next. As Andrew finished reading, everyone sensed that something shocking was coming. The room buzzed with questions. What did the Queen's choices mean, and what would happen next? Keep watching for answers. Palace insiders said the mood grew tenser after reading the will. King Charles expected to inherit everything. Windsor Castle was his. Balmoral should have been his too. But now, it would not be his alone, it would be shared. The idea of sharing Balmoral felt like a blow to tradition. The family had always gathered under the current king's leadership, but now many people would help take care of it. Andrew's words caused a noticeable change in the room's energy. Let's discuss how everyone reacted to the will. Reactions to Queen Elizabeth's will. Charles looked upset. His jaw was tight, and his hands rested firmly on his knees. It was hard to tell how he felt, but his frown showed his disagreement with what was happening. As the will continued, it became clear that the Queen had made some surprising choices. Anne, who had always quietly done her duty, was now in charge of Sandringham. She had not expected this. Anne didn't often show her feelings, but her body language changed slightly, showing her surprise. This was significant. Sandringham was the family estate and had been part of their history for generations. For Anne, receiving it meant an inheritance and a considerable responsibility important for the monarchy's future. Meanwhile, Charles struggled to stay calm. He was becoming more anxious. He shifted in his seat and tapped his fingers nervously on the armrest. He was not just upset about Balmoral. He felt frustrated that things were not going as planned. Many aspects did not fit into his expectations. The Queen gave him Windsor, but it wasn't enough. This situation was about more than property. It was about his honor and position as king. Now, it seemed like the Queen had changed everything he thought he knew about his future. William sat next to Catherine, trying to remain neutral. He looked at his father but quickly looked away. It wasn't his place to speak. His eyes revealed his thoughts. He wasn't ready to be king, but could see how things were changing. Catherine, his supportive wife, sat quietly beside him. She didn't move or fidget, but her eyes were alert, watching everything happen. She knew this moment would affect their lives, and she wasn't sure if that was good. The Vladimir Tiara, a symbol of grace and continuity, was now hers. Still, she wondered if it were enough, or just another reminder of the heavy expectations she would face in the future. In the background, people whispered, but no one spoke up. Not yet. Andrew's voice broke the tension as he continued reading the will. Everyone thought the reading was almost over, but Andrew had more to say. It was unexpected, and this was when they would all learn if they would get what they believed they deserved. Would they get it? Keep watching to find out. Second part of Queen Elizabeth's will. The second section of Queen Elizabeth's will begins right after the first. It mentions Harry. I wish for Harry to be responsible for the ceremonial sword of King George VI. This surprised everyone. Harry was not there. He had moved to the United States with Meghan. Still, his name appeared in this important document, and the sword was significant. It was not just a family heirloom, it symbolized service and authority, reminding everyone of the monarchy's strength and history. There was a more profound message as well. William felt frustrated. He did not understand why Harry, who had chosen to leave the family, was still recognized. Charles, too, felt the pressure. His calm appearance was slipping. The sword stood for respect, but reminded them of Harry's decisions to step away from his family and the monarchy. The choice to assign him such an important symbol bothered William and Charles. Anne stayed calm. She had seen family conflicts before and learned how to handle them. Still, she was surprised by the mention of the sword. It was a meaningful statement, and no one knew how to react. Andrew quickly moved on. To my great-grandchildren, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, I leave our family heirlooms and the wisdom I've gained over the years. Catherine felt a rush of emotions. This was a key moment, showing the Queen's trust in her children. The duty to continue the legacy was more than just wearing a crown or managing estates. It involved shaping the monarchy's future and upholding the Queen's values. The tension continued as Andrew prepared to read more. He took a deep breath, knowing his following words would change things significantly. The monarchy's future depended not just on titles and estates, but on the younger royals, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Andrew began the section about them. George, the oldest at just 8 years old, faced much pressure. His younger sister, Charlotte, had an essential role in the monarchy's future. The Queen's remarks showed that she expected them to have significant responsibilities. The Queen always aimed to balance the monarchy, ensuring every member had a meaningful role, regardless of their title. Now, Charlotte's future role was being discussed with everyone. Catherine gently squeezed William's hand as they listened. They realized how important this moment was. As parents, they understood they were not just raising children, but preparing them for roles that would affect the country's future. The Queen had given those tools, the tiara for Catherine and treasures for George and Charlotte. But it was more than just gifts. It was about passing wisdom and lessons from one monarch to the next. Before going to the next page, Andrew looked around the room again. "To my great-grandson, Prince Louis," he read, addressing the youngest royal, "I leave you a handwritten letter to guide you as you grow." Although Louis was younger than George, the message for him was essential. Instead of jewels or property, she gave him something personal, a letter. Inside it would be the insights of a monarch who had learned to balance duty with empathy. Even at a young age, Louis would need to understand and carry this forward when the time came. As Andrew finished reading, silence filled the room. They had reached the last part of Queen Elizabeth's will, and her final statements astonished everyone present. The final part of Queen Elizabeth's will. In the last moments of the reading, Andrew closed the will with a sense of calm. He discussed the Queen's wish for unity during difficult times and the importance of caring for their strong family ties. Everyone felt moved by the Queen's message of togetherness. It connected not just with their family, but also with the larger monarchy. Anne held back her emotions, but a glance showed she recognized her mother saw her as the family's support during hard times. Andrew shared the Queen's hope for the family's future. He noted that their legacy focused more on values and relationships than the crown. The crown is just a symbol, but kindness and service defined their reign. As he finished reading, he stressed their duty to continue the Queen's work. After a profound silence, Charles reminded everyone that their mother's words called them to act. Each family member took this moment in their own way, united by the Queen's vision for their future. While the others began to reflect, Anne stayed behind, deep in thought. The Queen's words stayed with her, a call for unity and strength. Anne knew the road ahead would be tough, but felt ready to carry that strength forward. Outside, the palace gardens were quiet. Inside, the Queen's message marked a significant change for the kingdom. Anne understood that these words would guide them through uncertain times. Thank you for joining us. What do you think about Queen Elizabeth's will? Share in the comments. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.